All right, so this is going to be part 3 of 3 for the credit training. After this is over, I'm going to send out links to all 3 trainings because Jan has done a great job of part 1 and part 2. Part 3 is going to be more geared towards real estate agents and how you can improve your pipeline of business and help more consumers get into houses. So I appreciate Jana being able to take all this time out of her schedule to help get the information out. So what do you have for us today?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here again. So today we're going to talk about how a real estate agent can be able to take what would normally be a turn down and turn that into a client in 120 days or less. And I think one of the reasons why that's so important is 2 things. First of all, you're helping someone become a homeowner, which can build generational wealth with someone that typically thought that they couldn't get a house. So most of the time, everything is fixable. It doesn't mean it can happen overnight or that it's magic, but most of the time everything's fixable. So sometimes you have clients that, have a few hiccups that could get cleaned up in 40 days. And other times you have a longer term clients that can maybe get cleaned up in 12 months. But the point is don't just eliminate or think that you can't help somebody because they have a few blemishes on their credit. And a lot of times it's knowledge too. So, and the other thing that happens is when you take that extra few minutes with that person and you help them through the process, that's going to be a fantastic way for them to refer everybody that they know over to you. So, when you do an excellent job with someone or you go a little beyond and above what someone else would do, they're going to be extremely loyal to you and they're going to be a walking, talking billboard for you and your business, which is so important because as we all know, real estate is not an inexpensive career path. Everything that a real estate agent, markets and signs in the yard and things like that, that comes out of their own pocket. So especially with real estate agents, if you can capture these clients and make sure they get to the finish line, even if that is in 3 to 6 months or even a year, let's do that because it's better for your pocketbook and you're going to get more leads from it. So today I'm going to teach going to talk about how to naturally build a pipeline, make more commissions and enjoy more referrals from your clients by empowering their lives and giving them a gift of a financial freedom and making lifelong connections. So learn how to turn credit denials into transactions in 120 days or less and never have that uncomfortable, I can't help you conversation again. I know that's one of the toughest things too, when you have someone so excited, right? And they want to get this house and it's right next to their best friend's house or across the street from the grade school. And, they've had their sights set on it. And then they go to talk, and make it start moving and then they get denied. So that's such an uncomfortable conversation to have and be like, I'm so sorry, I can't help you. But instead of saying, so sorry, I can't help you, it's, hey, let's get some things fixed and let's get you into that home. Or if that doesn't work out, let's get you into a home that is going to work out a few months down the road. So first, let's talk about real talk, the not so fun facts, if you will. So the average real estate agent across the United States makes $35,000 a year. Now, this usually blows people away, but you've got to understand we're talking about every single real estate agent that has their real estate license across the United States. If we average it out, that's $35,000 a year. Approximately 30% of realtors' income goes towards advertising, capturing leads, and building a pipeline, including broker's fees, real estate membership dues, business expenses, and real estate continuing education costs. Agent spends thousands of dollars a year to stay in business. A lot of times a normal consumer does not understand that. It's kind of, I want to say funny to me when I hear someone, I've heard them ask the real estate agent, like, so who pays for your gas in the car when you're showing houses? They do. Like that's the agent's expense, or, not understanding that every single time they put a real estate sign in the yard, that agent paid for that. Everything they do to stay in business and real estate comes out of their pocket. And so many times consumers do not understand that. And so when I'm doing presentations in front of consumers, first time home buyers, or maybe second, third, whatever, I really push home how much it costs for real estate agents to be in business. And so it really is important to utilize a professional and understand, make sure that you're a serious buyer because, these agents are really taking time and money out of their own pockets, to get you into that home. So it's really important that they understand that. So what does this mean for real estate agents? It's important to maintain and nurture each prospective client that comes in your door. It's simply too expensive not to. And with all the extra expenses agents must spend, wouldn't it be nice to have a lead source that costs nothing and improves your income each year? So that's where Rescore comes in. But first, let's talk about the not so fun facts. So what is standing in your way of getting willing and able buyers to the closing table? Well, there's a lot of obstacles in the way, right? And I'm preaching to the choir. We all know this. So 50% of Americans can't buy or they're unable to buy. And then interestingly enough, out of 22 million scoreable consumers, 68 million have bad or poor credit. 45 million consumers have no credit score at all. And according to the FTC, 79% of all credit reports contain errors. That's huge. And right down here, where my mouse is here, it tells you what is considered poor to great credit. So if you're talking a credit score that's 300 to 619, you're obviously in the poor range. Fair range is 620 to 679. Good, what's considered good credit is 680 to 730, and great credit is 730 and above. And really 740 to 780 is really very magical. And then after you get to that 780 mark, honestly, truth be known, all you really have at that point is just more bragging rights, if you will. You're not, doors don't open up anymore to you after you hit that 780 mark, to 850. You're doing excellent. So that's kind of the goal to keep in mind. A lot of people think, oh, I want an 800 or 850 credit score. 780 is, you're beautiful. You're doing fantastic. So 79% of all credit reports contain errors. That's huge. All right. So that's one of the other things that is no fault of the consumer, no fault of the real estate agents, no fault of the mortgage loan officer. 79% of all credit reports contain errors. So 31.6 of all credit reports have one or more collections on the credit report. 67.5 of all collections result from unpaid bills rather than unpaid loans, and over half are medical. Now, thank goodness, because in 2021, the No Surprises Act was passed. This is huge. This is a big, big win for consumers everywhere. So if you're not familiar with what the No Surprises Act is what it is when you have a medical collection that shows up on, I think my dogs are going to bark. I'm going to give you a heads up. Okay. Woo. We might've got lucky. Okay. So, I'm working from home. Sorry about that. So with the No Surprises Act, what it states is if you pay a medical bill that's showing up on your credit report, if you pay it, it'll actually be removed. Medical bills are the only collection that is safe for you to pay without it lowering your scores. I'm going to say that again. Medical collections are the only collections that shows up on your credit report that's safe to pay without it lowering your credit scores. So if you have a medical collection that shows up on your credit report, if you pay it, it will be removed within 30 days. The second portion of the No Surprises Act that passed in 2021 states that if you have a medical collection that's less than $500, so $499 and below, they will not report it to the credit report, which is excellent. So what I tell people is if you have a large medical bill on your credit report, if it's $3,000, let's say, pay it down to $499, where your balance is only $499 because they will remove it from the credit report. So typically, I kind of went on about that a little bit, but I just wanted you guys to understand that there are so many people that their credit scores are really being harmed because of medical collections. And now there's something that you could do about it on your own, which is just paying those, which is excellent. And a 5% sample of credit reports, approximately 1,400 different collection agencies were identified. And recent studies reveal 80% of medical bills contain errors, according to the Vice President of Medical Billing Advocates of America. That's huge. So not only are there mistakes on credit reports, 80% of medical bills, even before it hits the credit report, has errors on the bills. So it's a very unorganized system, if you will, and a lot of consumers are harmed because of it. So people need loans more than ever. However, lenders have stricter guidelines than ever before, and interest rates are on the rise, as we've all seen. So I've been saying this, interest rates are on the rise for a couple of years, and now we're seeing pretty high interest rates. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not a good time to buy. I'll be honest with you, because if you are renting, that's 100% interest, right? That you're not filling your pockets, you're not building your wealth. All you're doing is building the landlord's wealth. So it is a good idea to purchase now, because interest rates aren't always going to be where they're at right now. And they will, lower again, but homes are going to continuously go up. So it is a good time. And I never tell anybody that this isn't a good time to buy. Get everything in order that you need to get in order, but definitely purchase that house and then refinance later when you can. But it's always better to purchase because you're building your own wealth. So with it being harder for people to get to that closing table, it's making it even tougher for our agents to get their clients to the closing table, right? So with all these obstacles in the way, we're here and we want to help you with those obstacles and help build that pipeline of future buyers. So never have that uncomfortable, I can't help you conversation again. So one of the things that I do, or actually before COVID, and I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to travel all over the United States. And when I was traveling, I was interviewing real estate agents, loan officers, things like that. And what was interesting to me is no matter where I went in the United States, if I was on the East Coast, West Coast, down South, in the Midwest, I really heard the same things over and over again. So I would say, where are you having most of your success? And most of the time I would hear, they have success from internet leads, social media, and customer referrals. Those are the biggest ones that really help build their business. When I would say, what are some of your biggest challenges as an agent, getting people to the closing table or, building your business, it would say low inventory, which we're experiencing, marketing expenses, and finding qualified borrowers. And then the other question is, what is the most common reason a deal falls through? And you guys know this firsthand. Debt to income can be an issue, down payment, or credit. So what do you do with your turndowns? So do you just walk away from those clients? If you send them over and they're saying, hey, they really can't buy anything now, do you just walk away from all that time and effort that you spent with that person? Or do you build a relationship with them? So what you want to do is you want to create a client by guiding and directing them to a resource who can help. So you have to think about all of the money that you send, and time is money. So when and this is the thing, when you're in real estate, or if you're a loan professional, or even in my industry, when you are spending the time, even on social media, and I think all of us, if we could get rid of social media, we would, but we're handcuffed, right? We're in a business that we have to people. So when you're on, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, whatever, what are you actually doing? You're building your brand. You're building who you are and letting the world see you. That's time. So when you're spending your time on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, things like that, that's your time, and time is money. And then also when, maybe you still do cold calling with FSBOs, or maybe you still send out ads. All of that is your time and money. So let's say that you're spending your time and money and you're building your pipeline and you're trying to build leads, but then what happens when they get turned down? Is all this time and money wasted? Or do you send them over where they can get help, and it's a lead generation. You're building your clients and your pipeline with those turndowns, which is the best thing to do because nobody else is doing that. So realtors make an average of $6,000 in commissionable income per transaction. Think about what 5 more transactions a year would do for you. That's a $30,000 pay raise right there. Just from people that typically you'd be like, hey, sorry, I can't help you out because of your credit. What you're doing is you're helping them get back on their feet. You're sending them over to a company. And by the way, even if you don't use Rescore as a credit repair source for your clients, and Ronnie, don't let me forget to talk to them about what they need to look for in a credit repair company towards the end. But make sure that you're working with a credit repair company that is getting those clients back to you. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, right? Build your pipeline and help these people get into homes. So how much does it cost to refer someone to Rescore? $0. If they can't buy today, can they buy in the near future? Absolutely. And how do you help loyalty with your clients to ensure future sales? You help them. You take that extra time and you let them know that you're in this deal with them to get to the finish line to help them reach their credit goals. And when you can give a client a gift of a second chance, it is the best feeling in the world. And they are so loyal to you, they're going to refer everybody to you. But do your research first. So this is what I didn't want to forget. It is very, very vital to pick a credit repair program or company that gets those clients cleaned up and back over to you so they can purchase that house. All right. There's a lot of credit repair companies out there. I love my industry. If I didn't love my industry, I wouldn't be doing it. I've had several opportunities to get into mortgage or to get into real estate, and I love both industries, but I have a very a big passion for helping people because I was in a similar situation many, many years ago. I was a single mom with 5 kids. So if someone that was an ethical, and I didn't run across an ethical credit repair company, I wouldn't have been able to get help. By the way, I hired a bad one first. That's why I cannot stand bad credit repair companies. I hired a bad one first. I spent money I didn't have, and it didn't get me anywhere. 7 months later, I was still in the same situation. So I'm going to tell you what to look for in a credit repair company, even if you don't use Rescore, because I find it very, very important that you know. First of all, you want to make sure that they partner with, work alongside, or owned by an attorney. The reason why that's so important is because, truth be known, a consumer can do more for themselves than what a credit repair company can if they don't have that attorney piece. There's very strict laws and guidelines on what can and cannot be done to a credit report, but just most people don't know the laws. So when you have that attorney piece on there, you are able to do something when something isn't correct. All right. And there is fines, very hefty fines, when a collection company or when the credit bureaus don't do what they're supposed to. By law, credit reports have to be timely, accurate, and verifiable. And when they're not, they can get into a lot of trouble. And when I say a lot of trouble, I mean sued by billions of dollars, millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, you name it. So there's very, very strict guidelines. Well, if you're a credit repair company that isn't owned by, partner with, or work alongside an attorney, then really there isn't a lot that you can do. And the bureaus know that, the collection companies know that. So that's very, very important. The second question you would want to ask, if they do work alongside, owned by, or partner with an attorney, the credit repair company, the next question is how many times have they sued the bureaus and collection companies? If they say 0, you need to keep your search. You need to keep looking for another credit repair company to partner with, to send your clients to. Okay. Very, very important. The other thing that you want to make sure is you want to make sure that your client is only being charged for the items that are going to be removed from the credit report. The reason why that's so important is I'll back up a little bit, as a business model, the credit repair companies that charge their clients, regardless if something is removed or not, are making money hand over fist. And there's not a lot of motivation to get things removed from a credit report and get them back over to that loan officer or real estate agent. There really isn't. It's better for that credit repair company to drag the process out. If they're getting $200 a month, regardless if they get anything removed or not, they're probably going to try to get you to where you're in their program for at least 6 to 9 months, because they're getting paid that entire time, regardless if things get removed or not. So you really want to make sure that you work with a credit repair company and send your clients over to a credit repair company that only charges for the negative items removed from the credit report. For example, if they go after 25 collections and only remove 15, they're only going to be charged for that 15 they removed, not the 25 they went after. So number one, there's little to no risk for that client to go ahead and sign up with that credit repair company, because they're not going to have to be charged for things that aren't being removed. They only get charged for things that are removed. And the other thing too is it doesn't leave a nasty taste in their mouth. You know, let's say, like in my case, what happened to me is I spent $750 that I did not have. I was working 3 jobs and I was a single mom with 5 kids. I was so tired. I would never want to do that life over again, ever. If you paid me $1 million, I wouldn't go back to that, how my life was back then. But you spent $750 and nothing got happened. I was pretty sore about that. And I was pretty upset with the person who referred me over to that company. All right. So you want to be very careful as a real estate professional that you are referring people over to a company that's actually going to get results and that your client isn't going to get stiffed. And I know you know that, but I want to reiterate that, how very, very important that is. Do your homework. Don't ever just Google credit repair companies and see the first listing up there and then send them over. I mean, we may be one of the first listings you see on there, but I still want you to read reviews. I still want you to understand who you're referring over. Okay. Very, very important. And the other thing is you want to make sure that there's good open communication between the client and the credit repair company and the professional. So you want to know what's going on with your client at all times, I'm assuming. So what we do is we have a partner portal that when you send somebody over to us, you know where they are in the process. The other thing that we do is education is huge for us. We're not just going to go and dispute a bunch of things from someone's credit report and hope for the best. We're going to teach them how to maintain their credit cards. We're going to help them establish credit if they need to do that. We even have a budget coach. Sometimes, you know, when you pull back the onion layers, when someone has bad credit, it's actually because they need help with their budget. And when they get help with their budget and they get that know-how, then all of a sudden their credit issues magically disappear. So we even have that budget coach because we want to make sure that we're meeting everybody in the walk of life that they're at. If this is someone that needs a second chance checking account, or this is someone that needs to be referred to a financial advisor, we got you. And then everything in between. Okay. So it's really, really important that those lines of communication are open and that they're actually educating your client as they go, and that they can educate you so you can help your client along the way. Very, very important. So make sure you look for that. So what does Rescore have to offer? We have a partner portal. So you will know who signed up in the process. Each of your clients will have a dedicated credit coach. Our average turnaround time is 80 to 120 days. If they need to establish credit, it'll take a little bit longer than that. Or if they have very large ticket items, such as, let's say they have a repo that still has, $50,000 on it. And we're going back and forth with that company, and that company wants that client to pay towards that. That might take a little bit longer too, because we're just waiting for that client to have the funds to be able to do that. That's just one example. There's little to no risk when referring clients over to us or a credit repair company that only charges when negative items are removed, because the client isn't charged unless there's results, which is another positive thing. I'm going to skip past these reviews and things like that. And this is how you get a hold of Rescore here. This is all of our information. Of course, actually, a really great way to do it is get a hold of Ronnie, because Ron's going to take care of your clients anyway. And I'm telling you guys, I work with thousands and thousands of loan officers all over the United States. So I think I have about 7,000, the last count, 7,000 or 7,500 real estate agents and loan officers that send us business, which is a huge compliment. I'm very, very proud of that. But in saying that, I work with the very, very best. And I also work with people that are, kind of trying to get the hang of it, if you will. Ron's probably one of the best loan officers that I am privileged to be a referral partner with. He's been in the business for years. He takes the time to read and knows what's going on with the economy. I'm telling you, if you ever want to know what's going on, this dude can tell you everything you need to know about it. I don't think I ever walk away from a conversation without learning something. But it's so important that you man yourself with professionals that can get your client to the closing table to be able to purchase a home, and they're not exhausted by the end of it. And when you work, maybe, and I love new loan officers, right? We've got to start somewhere, but just be smart with who you choose. So a great way to do it is to get that client over to Ron, have him run their credit. He is trained in doing this. He knows what that client needs, and then he can get that client over to us. And then we all work together in that client's behalf. And the client knows that we're all working together. The real estate agent, the loan officer, Rescore, that credit repair piece, and them. And it's all a marriage, right? Until we get them into that home.
Well, I've been working with you for many years, and I do like the communication. I mean, the communication is great. I mean, there's some clients, I fail to give you a heads up that they're even calling, and then I just get an email saying, Shanna did she's right here in the process or whatever, and I didn't even know she actually called. And then other people that you get to working with, and you send them a proposal, and then they have budget issues, and you tell them, we're going to put it on hold for a while. I mean, the communication's great. So do you also do that same type of portal work with realtors directly?
Yeah, we do. So if a lead comes from a real estate agent, then they would get all the information about that client. So we do that as well. And I really think now it's so important, because there's so much false information out there, and people that get excited, right? A house purchase is an emotional deal. I'm in the middle of it. I think I need to do this about every 5 to 6 years, because it makes me remember what it's like to purchase a home, right? You pull up in front of the house. Oh, I love it. And we're trying to get our house sold. So, it's an emotional experience, and then if that house gets under contract, which happened to me twice, it's like, oh shoot, we can't get that one. It's an emotional experience. So when they work with professionals and we can guide and direct them through the process, and then we all stay in communication with each other, it makes a big difference for that client. So they're not so exhausted by the time they get to the closing table, because it's kind of an exhausting experience sometimes. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. It's sometimes worse than going to the doctor. I won't tell you what type of doctor, but yeah, we peel the onion all the way down to its core when we're getting through the process. We try to make that a little bit more simple, but getting the the credit piece is something that's really beyond my scope of to do on the to-do list. I'm busy doing a lot of other things, making sure income is qualified and all that kind of stuff, and having a good partner in credit. You take an informational point of view. It's not a sales point of view, which helps me. I mean, I try to educate them as much as I can, but turning them over to you early in the process for that further education that costs the client nothing is better. I've found that social media, Google, and everything else has got way too many opinions. And really, even family members and people that you talk to, they just like if you ask, well, my next door neighbor just got a rate of 4.99. Well, that's back when there was no such thing as a 4.99 rate. I know there's no such thing as a 4.75 with an APR of 4.9. And so people don't really even know a lot of things about their own credit scores, and you I don't know how many people I've talked to in the last 60 days that had an 890 credit score. Well, I'm like, well, okay, that's great.
Really?
Argue with them, but that's not possible. You can't have it, so.
Yes. Do you know the other thing we run across? So someone had tagged me in a Facebook group, and someone had asked, how do I want to get a house. I'm tired of renting this apartment. How do I build my credit? And someone had tagged me in it, and I was way down at the bottom, it was late. So I was like, well, let me go through here and just kind of read what people were saying. Now, I understand that I have been doing credit now for almost 13 years. So my knowledge is quite a bit more than the average Joe. But it just reminded me how much terrible information is out there and terrible advice. And when I was screenshotting, I was just floored. I was like, this is terrible. Because I was like, I need to figure out a way to be like, do not give this advice. One of the things this lady was like, whatever you do, don't open up a credit card, and you can just use your debit card and it counts as a credit card. The person who made the post was like, oh, really? I had no idea. And I was like, oh my God, like, no, that's not accurate. And trying to find a polite way to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, like no, that's not actually accurate. So I'm good at circling back around and being like, I've actually heard that misconception before, but this is actually what you need to do in order to build credit. And I think the other thing people get confused about too is they don't understand a FICO score is not grading you on how well you stay out of debt.
Right.
FICO score is grading you on how well you handle the debt you're in. So the game is, how do you have debt, but you're responsible? You're not getting it in over your head. So for real estate agents, I get, a good rule of thumb when you're talking to your clients is, if you have someone that's starting out, it's a good idea to have 3 to 4 trade lines. And a trade line is going to be credit cards and installment loans. So credit cards, think of yourself, the major credit cards are better than department store cards, and try to get 2. And then you want an installment loan. And then if you're a first-time home buyer, that home will end up being that 4th piece of credit. But you can just think to yourself, home auto, because those are installment loans, and then 2 credit cards. Now, of course, if they don't want to run out, and have a loan for a car, that's perfectly fine. You can get a CD credit builder loan, a self-lender, or what have you. But that's going to give you a good round, thick credit profile, if you will. And then time's so important. The other thing that real estate agents can give advice for their clients for is when they need those points, keep those credit card balances down to 30% or below. That's a fantastic way to build your credit. And if you want an extra pop in scores, then go ahead and pay your credit card balances down to 3 to 5%. That's a sweet spot for credit card balances. And even for real estate agents, they're consumers as well. Pay them down. You're going to get a good pop in scores. But there's so many things that if you don't know, you can actually harm yourself, just like paying collections that show up on your credit report, unless it's medical. You're going to lower your scores. You're absolutely going to lower your scores. There's no way around it. And it's because it changes the last date of activity and date reported. But a lot of people don't know that, and they think they're helping, and they absolutely destroy their credit. I mean, 50 points, 80 points, 100 points taken from them,
Well, then I have so many consumers that they talk to other mortgage companies, and they're like, well, they told us to get a credit card, and we got a credit card so we could get some credit. And I pull their credit, and they got a secured card for $300 and they owe $320 on
Yes.
it.
Yes. That's the other thing too. I always tell people, you've got to be so careful. So when you have a credit card, anytime your balances go over 30%, you're actually harming your scores instead of helping.
Right.
And it's a lot of harm. But one of the cool things that I have on my credit monitoring, so they've been evolving this credit monitoring that we use. The coolest thing they just came out with, it has a sliding scale, and I can take someone's credit and I can take where their credit card balances are because it reports. And then I can say, okay, if you pay $50 towards your credit card, you can get 10 to 20 more points. It'll tell you exactly how many. Or if you spend 80 more dollars, and this is real helpful around Christmas, you go a little crazy, buy your grandkids and kids or whatever, all these gifts, look what's going to happen to your score. So it has a sliding scale. And the other cool thing about it is towards the bottom, it'll tell them exactly when their credit cards report. That's a big deal because, people will be like, flip out. I'm sure you've experienced this. They flip out. That's a lie. I paid my credit card balance down, on the 16th. Well, they reported on the 14th. So those high balances are still showing for 30 more days. So with our credit monitoring, it's so nice because they know exactly, it'll say, if you pay, let's say $109 before October 3rd, you're going to get 80 points. It's really cool. So monitoring your credit is really important. I think, especially when somebody, the mindset to purchase a home, just so they can really get a grasp of where they're at, what they need to do to continue to improve it, or if they're already in good standing, what do they need to do to maintain that? I had a guy, I felt so bad for him. He was a young couple. They were like that cute little college love story that, they're going to make it and love each other the whole time. Anyway, not that I'm jealous or anything, but anyway, so they go out and I'm not bitter. They go out and they're looking for a house, and they kept getting outbid. So finally in October, they decided to wait until after their wedding and holidays and everything like that. So in the meantime, so they decided to start to look for houses in January. They were already approved. This is terrible. They were already approved. So they stopped looking in October. In November, Comcast Cable called the guy and said he had a bill for $40. And he's trying to figure out what it was from. Well, it was from 5 years ago when he was in college and had roommates. So he's like, well, I don't want anything to get messed up with me trying to buy a house, so I'll go ahead and pay it. Okay. So in January, he goes back to the lender to, hey, we're going to go ahead and start looking for a house again. Holidays are over. We got married. Everyone's happy. Well, he had 80 points taken from him. And he's like, what is going on? They couldn't figure it out. So the lender was like, he was perfectly fine in October. What the hell happened? So I said, send both copies of the credit report to me so I can find out what's going on. So I looked and I'm like, well, here it is. He has a paid collection on his credit report. It took 80 points from him. It was hell to get that thing off for them. And because we had a relationship with that collection company, thank God, after many, many phone calls and lots of negotiation and lots of begging the gentleman that we know over there to take it off, they finally did. That was 80 points. And the guy said to me, and I was like, damn, you're so right. He said, holy moly, I had more points taken from me than dollars I owed. He had 80 points taken from him. It was for $40 Comcast when he was in college 5 years ago. And he gets this phone call and he's like, I want to be able to buy a house. So I have to pay this $40. $40. And if we couldn't have got that removed for him, he would have been in a pickle because his scores weren't where they needed to be. And they needed both incomes for them to get this house they wanted. That's a real life story of stuff that we tackle every day. So it's simple things like that people, people always think this credit repair thing is these great big grand things that happen. $40 from 5 years ago that was Comcast Cable when he was in college, damn near kept him from being able to purchase a home.
Yeah, I had a client yesterday call and they were at 697. My program that I'm working on has a minimum credit score of 700.
I knew you were going to say that.
So,
yep, I knew you were going to say that.
Pretty simple fix because he had one credit card that had been opened 7 or 8 years. Several credit cards had higher balances, but this one particular one was about 90% utilized and had been open 7 or 8 years, and he just needed to pay $1,000 on it. And we're good as gold. But and I had another client, and they swore to me that I told them to pay that collection. I'm telling you, I did not tell you to pay that collection, but I ran their credit, and they're no longer eligible for a renovation loan. And I told them, when I did talk to them, I told them, they could maybe do a pay for delete or something like that.
Right.
And they didn't hear any of that.
No, I think that's the scary thing about walking somebody through a pay for delete, because, and even when I'm doing it, because I'll have people say, oh, I want to do it myself. And I'm like, okay, you have to listen to every single word I'm saying. And I'll even send them a template and say, do not say this, only say this, because what happens is their goal is to get that removed, but they naively think, hey, if I call this collection company and say, I want to pay this in full, that they're going to delete it. Well, they absolutely don't. They slap a paid collection on their credit report and it lowers their scores. And then they'll swear up and down, no, they said they were going to delete. No, they said they were going to show it paid. That has nothing to do with it being removed. It has nothing to do with it being gone from your credit report. But unless you know this and don't, you're not doing it every day, you don't realize, you just hear what you think you hear. How many times does that happen? And then they'll swear up and down, you told me, you said. No, I did. I know better.
Well, he came in my office about that one collection. So it was a electrical electric bill from a company that he's no longer got an account with, and they sent it to a collection agency. And I told them to call them and see if they can do a pay for delete or something like that, but do not pay that collection. And I'm sure I gave him even Rescore website to go to, but he went to the electric company and paid it. And so he came in my office, and I'm like, oh my God. And so he goes, well, I'll just call him and tell him to remove it. And so he did. He called the electric company, and they go, well, that's not us. We're not reporting that. That's the collection agency that we gave it to. You need to call the collection agency. So while he's in my office, I've never been a part of these phone calls, so he gets
It's crazy, isn't it?
He calls the electric company, and somebody that can't even speak clear English is trying to talk to him, and they're like, well, you need to pay us. And he goes, well, I've already paid. Just going back and forth. So it was like 45 minutes later, he left, went home. Nothing was resolved.
No, that's the reason why I have to pay employees 40 hours a week. I have a gal that works 40 hours a week. I'm not joking. And that is what she does all day, every day, because it takes that much time, and you will go back and forth. And then the original debt, like the electric company, would be like, oh yeah, I'll take your money. But then collection company's like, well, no, you have to pay us or we can't remove it from the credit report. And they're like, well, I already paid the electric company. I mean, and they are not speaking with each other, and the consumer is absolutely screwed and stuck in the middle. And it happens all the time, and neither one care. I mean, they're going home at night. They have their house, they have their bed. They don't care. And this consumer is screwed. And the really bad part about it is once they pay that, that's damaging their score for 24 months.
Well, it could be on there for as much as 7 years.
Oh, it absolutely will be. It's a big black eye for 24 months. And then after 24 months, it kind of starts healing from that. Kind of. But yeah, absolutely. 7 years. Yep. It's just, it's a very unethical and crappy thing that happens to consumers. And I think that's the reason why I'm so passionate about trying to teach the people who are on the front lines. You're going to be talking to consumers, know what the heck you're talking about. Make sure you're giving good advice, and make sure that they understand you and they don't just think they understand you. Because so many times I'll say, okay, so when you call, like that example, that electric company, what are you going to say? And I always try to say, I'm not trying to be condescending, but you have no idea how many times I've got off this phone call with people thinking we're clear. And then I get a mad phone call 30 days later because their scores are lower. Yeah. And it's because you didn't hear a thing I just said. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's really, really tough. And I know, I tell you, I feel for everybody in our industry right now, because it is just, we're in different waters than we have been. Of course, it's going to get better. Of course it is. We always go through ups and downs in the economy. I was around for the 2008-2000 debacle, so it's always going to get up. And I think people need to remember that. But while we're in this situation, how can we make the best of it? And that means making sure our clients are educated, making sure that we're giving them good sound advice that helps, doesn't hurt. Make sure you're working with professionals and have a good team. We can get through it. We always do. We just need to buckle up a little bit tighter right now.
Yeah, no. I appreciate it. I'm going to post these videos, all three of them together, so that people can watch them. But this video is very, I think, very good. It's going to offer a lot of information. And really, you should have brought up the fact that, other mortgage lenders that want to watch this. I mean, it's very important. Down here at Lake of the Ozarks, in God's country, we don't have anybody even talking about credit repair. We do have national companies call them trying to solicit business, but we don't really have any good, trustworthy, in my opinion, credit repair people. So I appreciate you doing this, taking the time, but I'm going to put that out to everybody, and I'm going to have the real estate board also post as much of it as we can too, because
yeah, definitely.
It's a struggle. The 35,000 a year average income. I mean, I'm going to say at the lake, it's probably not much different than that on the average. We've got an incredible surge of people coming from outside the area because they're not able to make money within their areas, and they're just doing whatever they can. So it's tough down here. So it's a good time to kick back and try to build up a pipeline, because when the market changes, you can have 30 approved buyers ready to go. Because
absolutely,
we've been in a seller's market for way too long. And eventually it'll be back to the buyer's market. But
and it always does. It always circles back around. And I think that's a thing too to remember. I know, when I've been talking to a lot of loan officers and real estate agents that are just kind of down in the dumps right now, to be honest with you, just all of us reminding each other, like, it always goes through these cycles, and it'll always come back around and things like that. I think you end up working smarter, not harder in these times. And then when the feast and famine. So when we're feasting, don't forget to continue to do the baseline things that you're doing now in the tough times. I think that's really important.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You'll get your house sold here.
Man, having to pack up. We actually had a showing